How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be installing to the RS3 the Powerflex gearbox mount inserts.
Let's go.
In just a second I'll show you the symptoms I've got on my car currently. There's a lot of squeaking, there's a lot of jolting, just some horrible noises, so this should eliminate those completely. So I'll play those clips for you now, guys. If you hear the same sort of noises as you do in these videos I'm about to play you, it's most likely that you need to do the same thing. Your rubbers basically will just dry out, they start to squeak. As they get old, basically, it's just kind of just general wear and tear. You can either go about replacing the entire mount from Audi, or you can go about putting the Powerflex mounts inside. I wouldn't recommend going for the Black Series. These are just like the fast road use ones. They're a bit softer than Black Series. Black Series is probably going to be too much of a savage ride for like a daily use car. So as you can probably hear from those clips there, when I shake the wheel from side to side causing the engine to move, you can hear the rattle from the front left side of the cabin, which is where the gearbox mount is. You can hear them just jolting on the rubbers themselves. So I'm going to put these inside, lube them up with the grease applied, and it should eliminate that completely. It'll add a very, very small amount of cabin vibration due to the rubbers being a little bit firmer, but that's nothing I'm worried about. So guys, the first thing you're going to want to do is get the car up in the air. See, I've got an axle stand there. Put it onto one side of the pavement so it's nice and level. But I'm going to be removing all of the torque screws from this large under tray. This one here. Take that off and expose the bottom of the gearbox so I can jack it up. So in total I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 torque screws, and this largest under tray will come off. So I just realised these larger 3 at the back, they're a T30, and there's only 9 in fact T25. So guys, that there is your gearbox. I'm now going to find a safe place for me to jack it up from, just to support it, because when I undo the top bolts it's going to want to drop, so I've got to make sure it doesn't drop anywhere. Okay guys, using a rubber insert, I've gently taken the weight of the gearbox with a jack. Now I'm going to open this up, take my intake off, that will give me access to the top bolts for the gearbox mount. So I'm going to be removing all the Jubilees that hold the intake pipe on, take that off, undo all these screws that hold the 034 carbon box on, take that off, pull the bottom box out, and it'll expose the bolts at the top. So I didn't actually end up undoing all the screws on the outside. I could just literally pull the handle from the middle and obviously the whole thing would come up as one. So undoing the individual screws around the box isn't actually necessary. But that of course is only if you've got the 034 Motorsport intake. As a stock box, you're still going to have to take those screws off. So the airbox is completely out. As you can see, there's 3 bolts there which hold the gearbox in place. And I've also got another bolt there and another bolt there, which I need to access. So I have to remove this frame that holds the bottom of the airbox in place, and probably, if I can, move this cable assembly to one side so I can access the 2 bolts. So there's 7 bolts to remove. You've got 3 18mm and you've got 4 16mm. 1, 2, 3, 4. So guys, a bit of quick interested info about the mounting bolts. Apparently, Audi suggests you replace these because they're stretch bolts. The instruction guide say nothing about the bolts, and I couldn't find anything about them online, not until I messaged a few people in the groups, and they said they did replace them because they were suggested to. I know more people who haven't replaced them over people who have. Obviously, I wasn't aware of this, so I won't be replacing them today. However, I'll take a note of it and probably get around to changing them soonish. A few people have said, without going into too much detail, don't know what I can say, but some people have said these aren't stretch bolts because they've spoken to people who are working in certain places. So I've not got to worry too much as it's not a moving part anyway. But I will probably get around to doing it, but I'm not going to worry about it just yet. Something you should consider. You may want to replace these yourself. I'm not going to be just yet. I don't have the bolts anyway. But anyway, guys, here is the gearbox mount. I can see some writing on it, which makes me feel like it's had some work done on it before, maybe, or been replaced in the past. I have no idea. 350, whatever that stands for. As you can see, well, mine anyway, I've seen some videos of people that squeak a lot. Mine don't squeak, but it moves really, really easily. It's got a lot of play in it, which will explain that jolting I'm getting. It just feels like the engine's rattling when it goes into first and second gear. You can hear the whole thing wobble, as you would have heard in the clips I showed anyway. So now, what I've got to do, I'll follow the Powerflex instruction guide. Got to lubricate certain parts of the new rubbers, insert them into this, and then basically put it all back in. Should be pretty straightforward. So the first thing you want to do is insert part A, which is the largest yellow piece, into the voids of the back of the bracket. So if you imagine it that way, you've got your two gaps here and here. This is going to be inserted into those. But before you do that, you need to grease up these voids inside and apply some grease on the outside. This will prevent it squeaking as much and it will slide in much easier. Apply grease. Grab this here. That's going to be slotted into the back like that. You got to make sure you push it through until these little loops are visible. So I need to push it in a bit more because then the next piece is going to clip over the top and into those holes. So you've got to push this in all the way. So as you can see, it's pushed in. Both the yellow tabs are sticking out like that. So the next thing to do is grab part B, which is the second yellow piece. What you want to do is have your mount like this way up here. You've got these two voids above the black rubbers that are already in the mount. Part B is going to slot into that. Obviously the rounded parts to suit the rounded tops. So you're going to grease that up and slide that inside. Grab your mount and slot those in up there. You want to keep pushing that in, guys, until it's nice and flush, because part C clips into these lock-in parts here, and so that needs to be in all the way, otherwise it's not going to have any room. So finally, what you're going to do, grab part C, hold your mount this way so you can see the two teeth, or the two holes, sorry. Part C, the purple piece, as you can see at the top, has got rounded at the sides. That's going to suit the rounded tops of the mount. So you're going to place that on there, and you're going to push it through until it locks into those teeth. Just like that. So that is all three rubbers inserted, and as you can see now, I can hardly move it at all, so that jolting will be completely eliminated. Now we've got to stick it back in. So guys, as you can see, the bolts of the mount are in, torqued to 100 Newton meters. That's what I've been suggested to tighten them to. I'm now going to get the rest of the airbox in and get back to you when it's done. So guys, the intake's back on, all the covers are back on, Jubilees are done up. Last thing to do is put the under tray back on, take it off the axle stands and we'll start her up. So everything's done, I'm about to put the car on for the first time, see if I can notice any vibration difference. The initial turn on the car, you feel a little bit more vibration, but it goes straight away. It definitely feels tighter, if that makes sense, in a good way. So immediately, I don't notice any more vibration when actually driving. Once your cold start has ended and you're just like idling revs, there's probably the smallest amount of vibration that you feel, but it's not like an annoying vibration. It's almost like a sense of, I don't know how to describe it. So it just feels tighter. It feels more satisfying in a way. And there is no noise at all anymore. If I shake the steering wheel, there's no added wobble. Let's see if I can get an example. If you remember before from those shaking clips, when I'd shake the steering wheel, you'd hear a noise, but there's literally nothing now. It's completely stopped that issue. There's definitely no extra vibration when going through the rev range, not that I can notice anyway. I know a lot of people said they couldn't live with the vibration, but I'm really not noticing anything. Something else I've noticed which feels really, really nice, when I'm in manual mode and I'm changing through the gears, I can only imagine before I put the mounts in, the inserts in, there was a lot of slack. So every time I change gear, I feel like it was losing some momentum during that gear change because of the slack. Now that there's no gaps in between the rubbers and it's all solid and tight, those gear changes feel a little bit more pronounced almost. It's a bit more solid and smooth. Feels like it's hard to explain what I mean. I'm not losing any momentum with the gear change because it's so tight, if that makes any sense at all. Like a noticeable difference in a really good way. Yeah, it feels sharp, it feels really good. Really happy with how the mount's feeling. I'm going to wrap the video up there. So if you did enjoy it, please give it a thumbs up, comment your thoughts down below, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.